Hi and welcome back to another episode of the Canary Room. Coming up on the show today, we've got part one of the hens. So we're going to meet the 2017 breeding team of Fifes, and we'll meet 9 or 10 hens today, and we'll meet the rest on the next episode. We'll also look at our conditioning programme. Towards the end of January now, the cocks, as you can hear, are in full song, and the hens are starting to show a little bit of interest. So we'll be round the room with our egg food, with our conditioning seed, and as we look at things, we'll increase the lighting as well. So we're on about 11 and a half hours at the moment. Over the next couple of weeks, that'll move up to 12 hours of daylight. And towards the end of February, we should see the birds singled off and ready to go. As always, sit back and enjoy the show. So we talked at the last episode about the water regime. I'm going to top the drinkers up now. Here's our 2 litre milk bottle, which comes in great, really handy in the bird rooms. Just mixing the solution up. What I'm not doing at the moment is taking the drinkers off the cages and moving the drinkers around. One of the great challenges, as we know, and we'll do a treatment later on in this show, is mite. Now, what I am doing this year, which is slightly different than what I've done before, and you know, each year I'll do things just slightly differently. I'll try and stick with what works, and then try some different things. Is I'm leaving the drinkers on the individual cages. So if you're taking drinkers off and you're washing them, there's always a chance that you're moving mite round. I'm leaving them on the cages. So this drinker will stay on this cage. That is until it gets treated, and I'm treating them twice a week. So they go in our in the solution that we use, the sterilising solution that we use, that we've seen in previous episodes of the show. So they get sterilised twice a week, and then for the rest of the time they just come off the cages. They're topped up with the solution, with the water, whichever it is that we're feeding them at that time, and that's how we're running it. And my hope is from that is that I'm not moving mite from cage to cage. We know it's the bane of people's lives. I had an email this week from somebody saying, I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and how do you keep on top of them? And it's really simple. You keep on top of them by thinking they're always in your shed and keeping your preventative measures up, keeping your routines up, never letting things slide, keep your cleanliness up, look in the nooks and crannies for them, make sure you're spraying in there, and just work. Keep an eye on your birds. Your birds will tell you by their behaviours whether they've got an infestation, whether they've got a problem. They'll look lacklustre. You catch them up and you'll feel them all over your hands. So I'm going to do the drinkers now. Have a look. So it's towards the end of January, beginning of February. The conditioning of the birds continues. It's slow and it's steady. One of the things, and particularly for any novices watching the show, or people new to bird keeping watching the show, that is really important to remember. There's an awful lot of forums out there about birds, on Facebook, on the web itself. And you'll hear at this time of year lots of people saying, I've put my birds down, I've got my first egg. And that's fantastic, and it's great for them. But what it can do is it can install a set of behaviours in people, particularly those less experienced fanciers. You absolutely will have nothing but trouble if you try and rush your birds down. Doesn't matter what's happening in somebody else's bird shed anywhere in the country, because the climate could be different, their conditioning routine will be different, the amount of daylight that they give will be different. Some will be adding heat into the bird room. It's not something I do here. And so really what's important is you look at the condition of your birds in your bird room, and they'll tell you when they're ready to breed. You'll see the behaviours. We've seen it now in here. The cocks are absolutely bouncing. They've probably got 2 or 3 weeks to go before they're in bang on condition. but they are bouncing at the moment and they're singing lustfully. They're not, I haven't seen them yet feeding the bars, and that's something to look out for. So if the cockle is regurgitating food on the bars, he's looking to feed a hen, and that's one of the signs to look out for in cockbirds. With the hens, you'll see them increasing their activity. You'll see them pick up things, and in the next episode, probably a week or so ahead, we will try some nesting material in there. We'll see if the birds pay any interest into it at all. I'm not unduly concerned yet. One of the things that we will do is we'll give them egg food now. Now I'm giving them egg food twice a week. I've been giving them once a week in January, and now I'm moving up to twice a week. And at this time of the year, we've got the base mix in here, which we know how we make. It's done in a blender. It's apple, it's kiwi, it's some kale, it's carrot, it's a little bit of garlic. So we've seen how we make that. We've got the base mix here. I've added a little bit of seaweed in, so we've got the garlic in this solution. I'm gonna just put one of the preparatory egg food mixes in for now, only because I've got one open. I will introduce another one throughout February. So, and the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add in this. Now the label is faded on this, and it's very, very difficult to see. It's a Belgian product, and it's called Grog. And what it does is canaries are susceptible to a disease called black spot. Anyone who's ever bred canaries will know that in the abdomen area you can see a little black spot in birds, and it's very difficult for those birds to survive and to make it. And what this does, it's very difficult to get it out of a stud if it's in a stud, and it can pass from bird to bird. Now, the Intradine solution that we've given will help clear any infections in the gut. This is just a precautionary measure. As I say, it's a Belgian-based product. I had it bought over from Belgium for me, so I'm going to make the egg food up as I would normally, and in the run up to the breeding season I'm going to put 4 or 5 spoonfuls of this in as well, just to give it to the hens, just to see if there's any lingering black spot in any of the hens, so it'll hopefully just clear it down. Just going to leave the egg food just to stand and settle for 3 or 4 minutes. Just so we can get a further idea of this consistency. You don't want to serve it too wet. Remember from the last episode, we found these in our move. We've said, I'm sure in a future episode, we'll find a use for them and they'll be in the cages. Well, sure enough, in the next episode, we found a use for them and they're in the cages. What I'm doing is I'm giving the hens some condition mix. Again, I'm not giving it them too often, once a week, but I will feed at the same time as I'm doing the egg food. So egg food is on twice a week now. Say it's coming into the first week of February. Egg food's on twice a week. I'm giving them a little bit of conditioned seed once a week. They're still on a ration seed. It's the mixture's got a bit more rape in, but I've not put additional seed hoppers on, so there's still the same number of seed hoppers on. So we'll give them some condition mix now, and I'm sure within moments they'll be all over it. Just before we put the egg food in, for all of the birds, not just the hens, the cocks will get the egg food as well. We're going to replace the mineral blocks, particularly for the hens. Only one of the cockbirds has got a mineral block on at the moment, but they have got grit, and they're getting grit on a twice weekly basis. The hens like to peck at them. There's different types of minerals in there, which is important for the birds. It's important, we're in now to getting their, bodies in shape to breed. So we need to make sure that they've got everything that they need. So that's whether that's supplements in the water, whether that's supplements in the egg food, whether it's additional green food. All of those things are part, along with the extension of daylight, a part of what we need to do to get the birds into breeding condition. So these come in a little cellophane wrapper, which is proving quite difficult to open and talk to camera at the same time, but I've managed to do it now. Just going to pop them on the inside of the cage, and they will peck at it, but one of these on a cage will last 6 or 7 weeks. See, now this has had about 5 minutes while we've been around the room to settle. It's a nice crumbly texture. It will hold, but it will crumble as well, so it's not too wet, the solution. That's the kind of consistency that you're looking for. We're going to go round now. We'll give this to all of the birds, cocks and hens. Give it to the reds, we'll give it to the Norwich, and we'll give it to the red bolts as well. As the reds are singled off, I'm just using finger draws to deliver their egg food, so they won't get too much, because we don't want them putting too much weight on. But you can see, you know, all the birds, we'll give some to the red poles in a moment. All the birds are enjoying the mixture. We'll give it to the 5 hens too. And it's just part of that conditioning. I know I keep banging on about conditioning. It's a slow and gradual process, and that should ensure a successful breeding season. So say, you know, we look at last year, we look at the challenges we had in the Canary room in 2016, you know, we're on episode 29 now. You've only got to look back at the episodes, you'll see a changing hairstyle of myself, and you know, I've obviously had a good Christmas as well. But you'll see some of the challenges that we had last year, and that was down, you know, almost solely to the fact that we moved the birds very late. And they were moved 3 times in a short period of time. We've had the birds here since beginning of January, so not too many feathers dropped, which is good. Everything's settled, there's a nice sort of routine in here, the birds are in good shape, so slow and steady. Hopefully this year will be a good year. Let's go and give some of this to the hens. So the first of our hens that we'll see over the next couple of episodes is this little sweetheart variegated yellow hen, mauve ring number 6. Now it's a flighted hen in the shed. We bred her in 2015, so she's 2 years old this year. A really, really important bird in the variegated and light line. Last year she did go to nest, and she had 2 full eggs. I moved the eggs, one of them hatched under a cinnamon, and it was reared until about 15-16 days, but it just didn't develop. I'm going to put her this year with the heavily variegated buff cock mauve ring 28, and the pairing will be very, very important for us in the Canary room to fix the pedigree and to cement that line. I like this little bird. She's struggled throughout the winter, to be honest, but she's starting to come into condition now. I'm not concerned about that. Birds will go up and down depending on the weather. And actually, the hens, we've talked about it all episode, we've talked about it over the last few episodes. It's a gradual process. So she's got a big part to play in the Canary room this year. What I will do when we look at our breeding plans in the next few episodes is I'll probably float some of her eggs, and by that I mean if I can get her mated up and I can get her to lay, I may well move some of her eggs under another hen, and I'll do that with a number of hens this year. And the reason I'll do that is because I want to make sure that I give them every chance to produce young for me. But hen number 1 today, an absolute belter. Another flighted hen. This is green, ring number 19. So it's 3-year-olds this year, this hen. One of 3 clear yellow hens that we're going to see in relatively quick succession. Arguably one of the best. Nice bird, good depth of colour, good width across the shoulder, really nice roundness. Got her in last year, went down to nest but couldn't get her mated up. So this year she'll just form part of a pair, and we'll give her another chance. I really hope to get something off this bird this year. Good strong head on her, could possibly do with a little bit more in the neck, but a nice roundness across the body on this bird. Really nice little clear yellow hen. Second of our clear yellow hens, it's an unflighted bird, orange ring number 24. This is related to my lines, but we'll recall that it's one of a few hens that we bought in from John Evans. It's a nice short little bird this, a little bit down on colour compared to the hen that we've just seen before, and that's because this bird is bred out of my variegated line, which originated from dark birds. So we've got some anchor birds in the stud with really good colour on them to try and improve the depth of colour in the clear and light and variegated birds. But it's a nice little bird this. It's got go with the anchor buff cock, the heavily variegated buff cock, Mauve 28, as will a number of the yellow hens, to be honest. So be interested to see what this little bird breeds for us. The final one of our clear yellow hens, it's one of 3 Irish birds we bought in last year. Now 2 of those hens have moved on and they've gone over to John's shed. This is Mauve ring 903. Now, the breeder, I can assure you, didn't breed 903 birds last year. It's Northern Irish fancy rung, which basically means that the rings are continuous over a number of years. So it's got a lovely position on it, this bird. Didn't get anything out of it last year. You'll recall we ran it with the heavily variegated buff cock a couple of times. And it just didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't connect. It did go to nest eventually, but to be honest with you, it came into the shed late. We had a lot of to-in and fro-in and things, so it's had a full year to settle down. I've wanted to keep it. I like the position on this bird and I like the shortness of it. I think this could be a real strong addition to that light line that I'm trying to develop here in the shed. In terms of its pairing this year, my original plan was to pair it with the heavily variegated buff son. He was bred out of an Irish bird, and I thought that might work quite well. Now we've lost him, so in terms of its partner this year, it will either get the heavily variegated buff cock, or it may get the variegated cinnamon carrier cock. It may get one for each round, and we'll see what we develop from it. But I'd like to get something from this bird this year, I really would. Another bird in the shed, purely here for its pedigree. It's got some visual quality about it, but it is bred down from my multi-award winning variegated line. It's coming from John, orange ring 42. So it's another unflighted bird. Remember, it was carrying a little bit of weight earlier on in the year. It seems to have dropped that weight, certainly not carrying as much weight as it was. A useful bird. This will probably be paired to the heavily variegated buff cock, at least for one round, and we'll see how it gets on. As I say, visually not the best bird in the shed by a long way, but certainly the pedigree's there. It's related, and what I'm hoping to do by pairing it back to the heavily variegated buff is just to cement that line and have a number of hens to select from for next year. Talked in previous episodes about which pairs I'm looking to take cocks from, which pairs I'm looking to take hens from. This is a bird that I'll look to take hens from. This is a very sweet self-cinnamon yellow hen, Mauve ring 17. So it's an over-year bird. It bred for Graham Holdsworth last year. He bred some nice birds out of it. Graham's done me a real favour this year in trying to re-establish, reconnect, go back to the drawing board, whichever way you look at it, on our cinnamon line in the Canary room. Dan, the cameraman's a massive fan of cinnamon, largely because he's a cinnamon himself. This bird's got beautiful wing carriage to it. It's a very nice, sweet little hen. You can just see the tips of its wings. It's got a lot of feather on it. It's got nice position. It's a really nice self-cinnamon yellow hen. Good leg, good stance. We're going to pair it to the variegated cinnamon carrying buff cock. and hopefully we'll run him with 2, probably 3 hens. Hopefully we'll be able to breed some cinnamon birds this year and get that long awaited cinnamon colour special. Viewers to the show will know, as a champion fife exhibitor, I've won every single colour special on at least one occasion. I've had second best cinnamon, but the cinnamon colour special has eluded me. So this year, giving it one final crack and seeing if I can't produce some really, really nice show-winning cinnamons. The final of the light line birds that we'll see for 2017. Cinnamon variegated hen, mauve ring 28. So with this bird and the bird we've just seen, there's a lot riding on them this year. This bird bred some really nice young for Gerald last year. I'm hoping it'll do the same in the shed this year for us. It is, you know, a very nice marked bird. In fact, Gerald had planned to run the cinnamon buffcock over this hen this year. He was looking to retain both birds. He's done me a favour by letting me bring them here. So I will put that pair together and see what it yields. One of the great things about cinnamons, and one of the great things about different colours of birds in the room, particularly with the approach that we're going to use to breeding this year, which is hens in single cages, is we'll be able to move the eggs around and we'll be able to tell where the young have come from, which is an absolute bonus. There's nothing worse, particularly when you're running pedigree lines, of not knowing where your young come from. It can really undermine years and years of work. So a sweet little hen this. We know it was a colour special winner. Let's hope we get some young out of it, and let's hope the young follow in hers and their father's footsteps. He was a double colour special winner. He was a best in show. So really, if not now, it's never with the cinnamons. I've never had such quality birds in the shed on a cinnamon line. We've got a 3-year plan. This is year 1 of. Please, let's see how we get on. So we've seen the variegated and clear yellow birds that we'll be running this year. We're onto the buffs now. We've got 4 buff hens to see. And the first is a clear buff hen, the final addition to the Canary room actually this year. Sneaked this in just before we started the intradine solution from John. Again, it's bred out of my variegated line that John's been developing over in his shed too. Useful stock hen this. I've got its daughter, which we'll see in a second, which is a very nice shapely variegated buff. And what I plan to do with these 2 buff hens is run the variegated yellow cock that we bought in from Gerald over both of them. Now we know he may be a cinnamon carrier as well. We don't know for definite yet, but we're going to pair him over this bird and this bird's daughter, and that will give us the start of a new family line within the variegated line. And that's, you know, it's a really important thing to do. Talked about it over many episodes now. The building the stud up over a number of years, the pairings that you run together now, looking at the future, looking at next year and the year after, and that's what I'm going to do. So one of 2 hens that cockbird will definitely get. If he doesn't throw any cinnamons in these 2 birds, then I may move him more around the shed and try and breed a number of birds out of him. But I like the position on this bird. I like the position on the bird of a daughter who we'll see next. Both of those birds will do us some good this year, I'm absolutely convinced. We've met this bird's mother. It's orange ring number 35. It's a little variegated buff hen. Again, not showing herself brilliantly now. A good pedigree bird, a good bird to have in the shed. Talked about the pairings for next year that we'll use with this bird. We're going to see another mother-daughter pair of buffs in a second, and that's something that I like to have in the shed, particularly when I'm generating and building new lines and developing the lines of birds. It's great to have sisters, but a mother-daughter will give you the opportunity to see the extension of the line. So what the mother pairs back and it allows you to have a line breeding program very, very quickly if you use the same cock bird over the mother-daughter. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this with the variegated yellow cock. The reason that I've selected both of these birds for him is he's a really nice, short, small bird. The mother is a little bit bigger. She's obviously an over-year bird, a good stock hen. This bird's quite a nice little short bird, but what they've both got, although neither are particularly showing very well at the moment, is they've both got very good heads and they've got stunning position. So they've got that upright position. We know he's got a really nice roundness of feather on him. These birds have as well. They've got nice type on them when they're settled, and he's got nice type too. So I'm hoping that that trio that I'll run will produce some really nice results for the variegated line. Penultimate hen that we'll see today, a variegated buff hen, orange ring number 3. Now we'll meet a mother in a moment. This has got a really nice head on it, this bird. You can see it's got great position too. The cock that I'll pair her with has also got good position, and we'll look to see what the young come out of. He's an important cock bird too, is in the shed as well. Lovely short bird this, a really nice little sweet hen. She's pulling as her mother is. There's a couple of birds, a couple of hens, even as we've been filming the episode, as we've given them egg food a couple of hours ago, they're starting to pull and get sort of, more advanced into condition, even in a short space of time. It's a little bit warmer today than it has been of late as well. That'll help. Nice little bird, fabulous feather quality on her, fabulous feather quality. Good type, but not outstanding type. When she settles, she looks lovely, but when she pulls, she looks like she could do with a little bit more on the back. So what I've got to look at with this pairing is pairing them with birds with plenty of feather, because otherwise their young, although they'll look great at times, won't be good enough for the show bench. But a nice, sweet little buff hen. What I'm also hoping is she has the same kind of parenting skills and the same kind of rearing skills as her mother, who was an outstanding bird. Final bird of the show today, Movering 11. It's a tick buff hen. We've just met her daughter, got 2 of her sons in the Canary room as well as part of the breeding program for this year. This bird has a lot of qualities about it. It's got a strong head, it's got great position. She would probably go down and breed now. You can hear her calling to the cockbirds. It's great that the birds are, coming into conditions. It's still too early to separate them. For me, it will probably be the 3rd week of February when they go in their individual stock cages. A sweet little bird this, nice colour on it, not the best buff hen that you're ever going to see. But that doesn't really matter, because she's here for what she breeds. And it tells you that I've kept a number of her youngsters that what she breeds is quality. And that, particularly with your over-year birds, is what you're looking for. So when you're looking at your selections, your final selections, which you should have done by now anyway, that's one of the things to consider with your over-year birds. It's not just the pretty ones that you want to keep, it's the ones that have bred the best birds for you. And this is a nice little bird, nice and short, and that's really important, obviously, in the fights as well. So we've got a really, really nice marked yellow cock for this bird this year. Certainly he'll get the first round with her, and we'll have a look at the young. And as we talked about in previous episodes, the way that we've changed the breeding program around, we'll do more of that this year. So we'll run 1 cock in the first round, we'll look at the quality of the young, and if we need to, we'll discard that cock and put another cock in for the second round. That will also give us some half-brother, half-sister pairings. What I may consider doing as well is running the same cock over this bird and her daughter. And that will give us another family in the variegated lines moving forward. And that's what we really want to do in the light and variegated lines, is we want to have 3 or 4 different families within one big family. And that's going to be important for us moving forward. talked in the last episode, it's highly unlikely that we'll bring any birds into the canary room for the next 2 to 3 years. Highly unlikely. Obviously, it'll depend on the success of the season, but now we've got to reset the lines. We've reinvigorated the lines. We've got the right pedigree in there. We've got the right blood in there. Next episode, we'll have a little look at some of the pedigree sheets that I keep in the background. But I'm looking forward to seeing what this bird breeds again this year. So that's all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Coming up next time, we'll meet the rest of the hens in the canary room. We'll prepare the Norwich for the breeding season, and we'll look at our breeding records and how we capture the breeding information for the show. Next episode will be episode 30, so it's the final episode of season 1 of the series 2. As always, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, like our YouTube videos. Until next time, take care. Action! I see you, baby. Shaking that bottle. Shaking that bottle. They don't look anything like budgies. They're canaries. They're canaries. They sing nice. They don't squawk. They don't walk up the bars. They don't have a bell.
They don't have a bell.
Oh, look, I have a little feather on me. Boom! Boom!